Hello, Nevada County. This is David Clark Carroll with the Nevada County Tech Connection. We are an initiative of the Nevada County Economic Resource Council looking at tech, manufacturing, marketing, small businesses, and we're joined tonight by Jacob Griscom. He is a Nevada City native and the Chief Business Development Officer for R&B Communications. From business IT support to software and web development, to digital marketing and media buying, R&B is a full-service communication solution for small to medium businesses and corporate clients. Outside of the work world, Jacob is a father of Elijah and Ethan and enjoys dance, explorations in consciousness, and researching decentralized finance and blockchain projects. Now, we have him on tonight to talk about one of our frequently requested topics, which is really marketing, and specifically how to quickly attract and activate customers who want your products and services, even in an uncertain environment. And thank you for joining us, Jacob. I think this is a topic, particularly in this liminal period, that people want to know how can we attract customers, keep them, and this is a pivot time, right? A year ago, everyone was pivoting to how can we sell everything online. Now we're looking at, okay, we've got a great customer base who's finding us on our website, who's maybe coming doing curbside, who's doing shipping. How can we keep those customers as the economy is reopening, as we're looking to having stuff in person, while reaching and attracting those future in-person customers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I agree. I think it's a cool question and a cool way to frame it. You kind of look at it's really an extension of, COVID has been challenging for people because it's been one, change, and change often represents friction and challenge for people, but it's also where we learn and grow. A lot of people have had real hardships during this time. A lot of businesses have really closed and won't open again. But some have, some and many have pivoted, changed, adjusted so that they could not only survive, but even, as you're saying, open up new opportunities, whether that's been businesses that had people now working remotely and they're realizing like, not only for our employees as well as ourselves, I did some research back in the earlier 2000s with my company, Better World Telecom. We had done a study with Bainbridge Graduate Institute. And Better World Telecom was this boutique telecom carrier. We were called like a triple bottom line company, meaning that we needed to be not only profitable, but also show benefit to social and environmental metrics. And so we would compete with AT&T and Verizon and Sprint, mainly serving other companies that would have aligned values where we could provide the telecom services and solutions that they needed, save them some money on their bill, know that a portion of our proceeds were going to be donated to charity and so on. So we participated in this study with Bainbridge to show how telecommunications was really like the leading strategy that a business could consider if they were looking at how could they reduce their carbon footprint. So that was one, and we showed obviously the driving time back and forth for all of their employees to the office or wherever they were working. But beyond that, just the amount of office that they actually really needed to occupy, right? Did they actually need to take up as much real estate as they were? So the results were really cool. We showed these substantial drops in their carbon footprint, but in addition to that, these big gains in their profit margin by reducing their cost in terms of overhead of real estate that they needed to own and operate or not. And also, though, improved employee productivity, improved employee satisfaction, improved employee retention, right? All things that can represent huge costs for a business, reduced healthcare costs, right? So less stress and like that. So I think even as smaller businesses are coming back, they're asking these questions like, all right, who do we really want and need in the office? And some that I'm talking to are even like, oh, we realized we don't actually need an office, right? So those are cool questions to look at and pivot. don't mindlessly kind of go back to, all right, let's just go back to exactly to how things were before. But what gains have we gotten through COVID right now in terms of our operations and our culture that we want to retain and continue? And what parts, were real gaps and deficiencies that, yeah, we'd like to fill back in.
I think
So there are
it's
those
just
kind of,
awesome that you mentioned the commute and the carbon footprint of both being in an office and getting to the office. And
yeah,
we had a panel a couple months back where we had three remote workers on talking about how they had really embraced it. And at the end, I'm like, what's one thing you want to leave our viewers with about remote working? And they're like, we love not being in traffic. We love not commuting. And I
exactly.
think the last year has really, people have realized how much that affected their happiness and their productivity. And, there's nothing more demoralizing and making it hard to get your day going if it takes you an hour and a half to go 10 miles down the road.
These are like direct business case, questions and results, and it doesn't even include the softer indirect effects of, well, what does it mean when people can have more access to their family and just their home environment, and like what other, like, if you're a good consultative salesperson, then you ask a lot of implication and need payoff questions. So you don't stop just at the immediate deal. You ask like, oh, what are the other implications of that problem? And what are the other implications, and so on, so that you can really get a full scope of the nature of a problem. And same thing with need payoff. You find out, oh, if we were to solve this, what other benefits would that generate? And then what benefits would those generate, and so on. So really cool way to explore, really cool way to think. And definitely we want to encourage all of our businesses, customers, clients to go through this reentry, call it, like intentionally, consciously ask these questions. So that was like kind of in relation to the question of, all right, now that we've found that we have these additional ways to serve customers, how do we maintain the benefits of these service models and product models, but now also open up to ways that we may have served customers before? And and interesting also, like, which one should we weight more heavily? Which one's actually going to, like, where's our profit margin greater? Where's our value to the customer greater? Which audiences prefer what? Whole new sets of questions, like kind of go through the process again. If you hadn't ever originally, who are our audiences now? What are their main needs, goals, and challenges? And let's bucket those out, get them out like visibly here, and figure out what's the best way to attract each of these different types of clients now and serve each of these clients. So yeah, really helpful exercise to go through. And again, one that we wouldn't have gotten unless we gotten tricked into it by a global pandemic.
So when it comes to attracting both existing customers to a new business model and also completely new customers, what do you feel the most kind of crucial thing looking down, let's say the next 6 months, is going to be for local businesses?
Well, there's always the way that the businesses are familiar with having gotten their business even pre-internet, right? Which is people find out about you, you have a reputation in the community, you get referred to from your customers, your clients, your partners, and business networking and associations and nonprofits and all the rest of that, right? We're grounded in that. Most businesses that have been around for a while are grounded in that, and many of them are entirely dependent on that one type of customer, the word of mouth customer. But with the advent of the internet and digital marketing and online presence, there are really three different ways you can get customers on the internet. And first, you kind of need to understand just the basic buying cycle, right? So you've got the buying cycle where the actual purchase happens. And then after the purchase, you've got a potential advocate. If the experience went well, if they're really happy, you've got a potential advocate and referral source out there now. But before the purchase came consideration. People were looking around, right? And so on the internet, we call that active search. These are the people that are going to the internet, and they're going to, 99% of the time to Google, to some degree to being in some other sources and other directories, but the lion's share of search traffic is happening on Google. They're going to Google and they're typing in an inquiry, looking for this or that. If that inquiry is in any way related to local businesses and business categories, Google will serve up a map. And it will have a map and it will have little dots on the map of businesses related to that inquiry. And it will have what's called a local pack, 3 listings connected to that search based on where that person is, proximity to them, if it's mobile or where their IP address is, based on relevance to the search that they're making, and then based on the overall authority of that business, which are a variety of things that go into how they calculate that. But the point of it is that these are people who are actively searching for your products and services right now. So the questions we ask at that point are, one, are you the clear choice amongst the competition? And that's really a variable of, just like in your community, you have a reputation in the community. Well, you also have an online reputation. It's made up of your rating and reviews on Google and Facebook and Yelp and all of these other platforms. If you're not the clear choice amongst the competition, then your visibility really doesn't matter that much, because the way we make our decisions is we go there and we choose the clear choice amongst the competition, the one that has the best rating and highest overall number of reviews. So if a business has a problem with that, we need to fix that first. We need to improve their online reputation. After that, then we can focus on expanding their visibility so that they're showing up in more of those local searches, and there are a variety of strategies for how do you accomplish that. But these are important, super important customers that you want to make sure you're targeting right away, because they're what we would call like hot buyers. They've got money in hand. They're in the consideration phase. They're looking for a solution already. They just need to decide who. So that's the sort of most immediate next step to take after your referral and word of mouth business that's strong and like that. Once that gets tapped out, right, and you say, okay, well, now we've got good, we're showing up in that with that local visibility. We have a strong reputation. Maybe we've also taken advantage of what's known as pay-per-click advertising, the listings that will show up above all of that as sponsored listing that you pay when somebody actually clicks on that, right? That's the way that you get that traffic immediately and quickly, and that you can expand your reach beyond however you're showing up, organically, as it's called. But then once those kind of get tapped out, now you're thinking about, well, who are our passive prospects? Because that's the third sort of customer that you can get. They're not a buyer today, but they may be a buyer tomorrow, and they may be a buyer a week from now, or 6 months, or a year from now. And they're a good fit for your products and services. They're not looking for it right now. They may have some misconceptions about it. They need multiple touches. They need education. They need reminders like that before they move into now that active buyer consideration phase. So if a business has a really balanced marketing plan, then they're employing strategies and they're kind of constantly getting customer activity from all 3 of these types. They're getting it from word of mouth, they're getting it from active search, and they're constantly sort of putting money in the bank of their passive prospects to activate future buyers as well.
Very cool. Now, I think one of the things that we've really seen with the advent of social media is that first category, the word of mouth buyer, doesn't happen just in person anymore.
Exactly,
Frequently happens whether direct contact with Facebook friend or Instagram follower, or often, and I think Nevada County is particularly strong in this regard, the whole social media group that is rampant on Facebook, and less so on some other platforms. But
the peeps,
if a business is trying to expand that side of it, what's kind of the best way to go about that?
Well, yeah, what we're describing there is really an active searcher. But where are they doing that active search? They're doing it within their digital, their social media circles on something like a Peeps group or something like that. So it's an active search, but they are looking for a word of mouth referral. So the same thing is going to happen. They're going to get, 5, 10, 15, 20 comments with people chiming in. Oh, so-and-so's the best. Oh, and everybody's saying the same thing. So they're getting all of these recommendations. That's great. They've now gotten word of mouth. But guess what? Most of them are going to go through that same process of looking at a few of them. They're going to go, and that's why marketing foundation is important. They're going to click and they say, oh, do they have a Facebook page? Do they have good reviews on the Facebook page? Do they have up-to-date content there? Oh, do they have a website? Does their website look professional, well organized? Do they clearly communicate what they do and what I need? All right, let me do a search for them online. Oh, look at their reviews, their rating, right? So they're still going through that evaluation process through the marketing foundation and active search, even though an element of what was this word of mouth. So word of mouth is really, and some people will go directly from word of mouth just straight to the business. Great. But a vast majority of them will go through the intermediary of these digital assets and platforms. So Google, the website, and then these overall sort of impression of their online reputation as well. So even if they get a raving review or a raving referral from somebody in the group, but they go on and find out they only have 2.3 stars, or they have no online reputation, they may have built awareness about their products or services, but it actually went to a competitor because they were the clear choice.
So it sounds like follow through is really crucial. If you're building a following, you're getting that word of mouth, you can't just be happy with that. You have to look at, okay, how can we reach the word of mouth people who maybe scroll past, see that name, oh, that company does this. They don't actively need that service at that point in time, but it's lodged in their mind. And if they don't have the ability to follow up and see what are the reviews, what are the professional standing of the website, really critical things there. Now, when we're talking about, particularly with the Google searches, what are some things companies can do to get into those that local path that you were talking about, where you pop up in the first couple categories? Now, sponsored content is one way. How can you grow that more organically?
Exactly. So pay-per-click is the fast way to get there. You can just buy space, but that only gets 10% or less of the activity anyway. Most of us recognize, oh, that's an ad, and we go down, we intuitively go down now, and we know, oh, these are the organic listings, right? So, but that does get some activity, and if you want to reach outside of your organic territory, that's really your option, right? So when it comes to organic, these are the variables, right? So we talked about proximity. So the first thing is, where is your actual business location? And if you don't have an actual business location listed, that's going to hurt your visibility. So where's your business location? Where are you located? And then in some cases, if that's enough of a disadvantage, you may actually consider getting a different business address that's more in the heart of things, where more of those searches are happening, because that will impact who and where you show up for.
That's a really cool piece of advice right there. So even if you're doing maybe manufacturing, you've got a great access, let's say at the airport Loma Rica Park area, it may be advantageous to have a business address in downtown, for example.
It will make a difference. Or you maybe even have 2 Google My Business listings, where you've got an address there and then you've got like a local office space. Now, it does need to be space that you actually can receive mail at, because you're going to receive a postcard in the mail. Then that's how you actually verify a physical address, through the Google My Business system, and some others. Apple being a number of these send actual physical codes in the mail that you have to use to verify. So then you also have, so that's the proximity piece. Then you have the relevance piece. And the relevance piece means, all right, if you search for plumber, right, does your Google My Business, are you in the right business category or categories? So you can have a primary one, and then you can have a secondary one, and so on. In your Google My Business, you should have it should be completed. It should be optimized. You should have images and posts and descriptions and basically complete everything that you can so that Google sees like, oh, this is an active listing, which affects not just the relevance in terms of the keywords that are associated throughout it, but also gets into authority. So we'll talk about that a little bit in a moment here too. So relevance is going to come through how optimized is your Google My Business listing itself, but also the website that is connected to that Google My Business listing. Has that also been what we would call a search engine optimized? Have you followed the best practices there, or is your design and in digital marketing company taking those steps for you to optimize the site itself that's connected to that listing? Because that's also part of the variable of relevance. They're going to say, yes, this company's website offers what you're talking about. Now, maybe be a very specific brand search or some connected search. But that's what we're looking to do, right? So then comes authority, and authority is other things given being equal, proximity, relevance. How does Google decide which one to show above based on that? Let me turn off my Voxer. There we go. So authority is really about a lot of different variables, but one of them is going to be, do you have ratings and reviews, right? Are those coming in regularly, frequently? What's the quality and overall sentiment of these rating and reviews? Oh, and even do the people in the ratings and reviews, are they mentioning those same keywords that you say that you serve? So those are also variables that come into play. But beyond that, it's also going to be the overall authority of the business. How long have they been in business? How long has their website domain been up? How much authority does their website have itself in terms of other places on the internet linking back to them? Is the business's name, address, and phone number consistent across the internet and directories? Do they use things like local schema on their site to clearly tell the Google search engines, this is our name, address, phone number, and so on? So there are a lot of like checkboxes that you check when it comes to relevance and what we would say this process of like local search engine optimization, local SEO. But roughly, those are the three variables about how do you show up more for those active searchers once you've addressed reputation. Because if you've got a 2-star rating, well, do you really want to broadcast that to more people? No, you want to fix that first and then show up more.
I find it interesting that it's important to have the address and phone number consistent across multiple platforms. I think a lot of times businesses set up a website, set up their online presence, and just kind of assume that's set. And then they move their office, or they expand into the suite next door, or they get new phone lines for new employees that are expanding their business, and they don't take care of that foundational step. So I want to make sure everyone out there knows, make sure it's the same, because that's critical.
Exactly, and it's a bit of a process, and you're trying to do it yourself. It's tough. So we like to just package that up as a citations service where we go through and we claim and verify and remove duplicates and make it consistent across all of it. That's definitely a good step along the way. Yeah, so that's what like local search, those active searchers comes down to. And as I'm emphasizing, there's an order to do these things in. So you want to focus on foundation before you go to active search. Otherwise, I describe it as like you've got a bucket, but it's got holes in it. So now as you start turning on the faucet, you're just going to be losing a lot of that time, money, and energy, or even having that water flow to other competitors. So you want a solid bucket that can hold water first and then turn on the faucet.
Now, one of the foundational pieces is reputation. Now, is there anything a business can do besides offering better customer service when they're having issues with that? I know there's been the whole Yelp bombing things where people pile on and affect your reputation online. What are steps a business can do to either remove spam reviews, and really manage that side of the equation, because it's so critical. Uh, Even as we open back up and it's more in person, people are still going to look up a business online first. So you got to
Yeah.
make sure you got your reputation taken care of.
Yeah, absolutely. So there's kind of two parts to it. One is we would call the overall reputation management. And so this, you want a solution, you want a system for this. You don't want to just kind of have it be something loose. Some businesses have really put the time and energy into address that internally, but in most businesses, that's going to be a fairly low cost service that you'd want to outsource to a firm like ours that will just take care of that for you. The basic elements of it are that a customer or client is going to get an email from the business through our system. It's asking first for their general like rating, like a 0 to 10. Hey David, how likely would you be to send or refer R&B communications to other businesses in your network, that kind of thing. So 0 to 10. So as long as it's a 7 or higher, then our system would automatically say like, oh great, well hey, would you also be willing to leave a review on Google or Facebook or these other platforms to tell people a little bit about what you appreciate about our service. It makes a big difference for us. It'll help other people, etc. So that is doing two things. It's one, it's building up that strong online reputation, getting those reviews proactively. It's also intercepting or preventing negative online reviews while still making sure that that feedback gets back to the business directly so they can, as you say, like improve their customer service and help to turn any situations where it just communication fell off or something, things that would have slipped under the radar or could have resulted in a negative online public review into a better customer service opportunity. That's part of it. So what happens then once you can then leverage that, right? So once you have these positive reviews, you can now leverage them with a widget on your website so that you're using it for further social proof and improving conversion. You can turn them into social posts and broadcast them on Facebook and the rest for improved passive product awareness campaigns and such. So you can really make use of it not only as this foundational piece, but as a real strategy for strengthening your overall sales and marketing process and awareness. Once you get a negative review, there is no guarantee that you have any way to remove it. That's why these platforms are powerful, because a business can't just take this stuff away, right? You can either reach out to that customer directly. The two parties that have the power to remove that review are the person who left it or the platform itself. So for the person that left it, that's usually going to be your first choice. Hey, can we fix or solve this? Do we actually know who this customer is? And can we address this with them directly? And then, basically ask them, hey, would you be willing to, once we solve this problem for you, would you be willing to change, edit, or remove that? The other way is that we have attorneys that we will use that will actually reach out to the platform directly if it looks like, hey, this is bogus, we don't even know who this person is, this was like a direct assault on our online reputation by a competitor, that sort of thing. So basically, they kind of spammed or attacked us. Then we have a sort of a la carte process for addressing those on a case-by-case basis as well. So the easiest thing is that you just get lots of positive reviews, you prevent and intercept negative ones, and then if needed, you go through the more challenging process of removing those. First, if you know the customer, you try to address it directly, or secondly, through these legal channels.
That's a lot more positive than you might expect. I think a lot of people think, oh, they just flood and that's it. Our reputation on that site is toast. So it's encouraging to hear that it's. I particularly like the idea of having to reach it back out to that customer, and it's no longer someone bad mouthing you down at the general store. It's
Yeah.
they put it out there for the whole world to see, so you have to take it seriously. Um, Now, we've been talking a lot about how to really reach those customers and make sure that you're in front of them. Um, I want to kind of rotate back to what we talked a little bit about the start, which is we're at this time of a pivot where we're pivoting now back to more in-person stuff. And there is going to be an opportunity to, let's say, attract that customer driving by, walking by, seeing your business in town, um, encountering you in person. And how, using some of these same ideas, how do you reach that customer base and that potential market?
There's going to be a limited window here before things are kind of fully open again, where businesses need to use, um, outside of the digital landscape, that in the just physical environment, they're going to need to just make it really clear, hey, we're open, right? So signage is probably the most effective way, uh, you know, sort of no-brainer way to indicate that right away, like, hey, we're open and we're available. Um, but that's just going to be for a little bit of a window, besides the things that a business would use in that regard anyway, with ways that they're just using their signage and signage strategies to attract, physical visibility. Um, but I think, each one's interesting. Each one's a little bit of a thought exercise. And whenever I'm working with a new business, we have like an initial discussion process we go through that's like an organized intake that makes sure that we're asking all of the relevant questions that will lead to insights around what are the opportunities here. And so when you try to assess that, it's really okay, we have to come up with a specific example and go through those list of questions, the most powerful of which being, though, as I mentioned earlier on, okay, who are our actual customers and audiences right now? Let's think about each of them. Let's figure out who they are, what are their goals, what are their needs, challenges, pain points, etc. And what do we want them to do and how do we want them to do it, right? So you're kind of consciously designing that instead of it just happening and reflecting like, oh, I guess that is how that happens, right? You're thinking that through ahead of time, and then you're, in a way, you're looking to see like, all right, how can we grease the chutes or open that wider so that what would be a natural occurrence anyway, we're just facilitating that. So this is all theoretical without us really looking at a specific example. Maybe we could do that. I don't know if you have one in mind. We could go ahead and kind of think through that process.
Let's take broadly the example of there's a lot of restaurants in town that have been hard hit and doing the best they can. Um, as they're able to have more and more people eating inside or shifting away from that takeout model, what's a good way to get that message out and reach their customers as opposed to the random person walking by that doesn't want to eat in that restaurant?
Right. And like you said, I think they should keep their strong takeout game. I think they should keep their strong delivery game. Like if they didn't have that in place and they did the work to establish it and they've got good margin on it, then by all means, keep that running. Um, but now it's like, okay, now people can actually walk through their doors. So as we mentioned, they first just need to, like, there's going to be just a psychological phase of like, all right, who's open and not. And this may be a very short window. So, it's just so timely that you just have to see how it goes, right? If it were to go back and forth between, these phases, like, oh, we're purple again, we got to close down again, that sort of thing, it'd be relevant. But it seems as if we're headed in a certain direction now. But here's some of the things I do like for a restaurant that can help that actual foot traffic, and that go along nicely with marrying what's happening in their physical environment with what they can be doing with digital strategies. The first is relatively few restaurants have any way that they're actively capturing customer data: name, email, phone number. So you can couple that with like our customer feedback system, where you have a QR code at the counter, at the tables, or with the receipt, that sort of thing. And it's still kind of a compelling curiosity thing. A lot of people haven't seen these things. You say, hey, point your camera at me. You say, oh, interesting. Oh, I see. It's feedback. I get it. Interesting. So what's required for that feedback? Well, the customer needs to enter in their information. And so that's one way that they can be collecting customer information now. Another would be if they want to offer a coupon or a discount or something like that, some other reason that would be valuable enough for the customer to say like, yes, please send it to me. Here's my info. Why do you want that? Why do you want customer information? Well, every business, and certainly restaurants, have cycles. They have seasonal cycles, they have weekly cycles, they have daily cycles. There are times where they're super busy, and there are times where they really just like crickets and nothing's happening in there, right? They're open, but the flow is super low. So here's a great strategy for a restaurant. You take those times when it's really low and you run flash offers, and you run them on two different places. One, you run them by email and or text message. Hey, for the next 2 hours, this, whatever deal is running, right? Go ahead and pop in right now. Come here for lunch, come here for afternoon coffee, come here for whatever, right? So in the moment, we know we have a slow time. We can automate these things so that every Tuesday when it's slow at 3 p.m., we want to run these campaigns so we've got more people coming in and having their coffee and tea during these slow times. Cool. Just now you need to give them a reason why this is the best option for them right now. And it's timely, it's urgent, and you're giving them a call to action. So you've triggered the event. Where's the other place? So in addition to email and or text message, by having this directly, you now have audience, a list of your customers. And so you can go give that to your Facebook account as well. And you can say, hey, Facebook, build me a custom audience of all of our existing customers. And if they're not in front of their email right now or whatever, or they've opted out of the email campaign, which is fine. Maybe they don't want to get the email or the text. Well, if they're on Facebook right now, then show them this ad during this same window. Hey, right now we're running this special. It's Tuesday, it's 3 p.m. Up until 5 p.m. you can get, this special treat and this discount and this whole thing, right? So now you're running that on 3 potential notification zones. And now you want to expand that customer base. So now you can say, all right, Facebook, now create a lookalike audience for me. Find other people that look like have the same characteristics and interest and personal style and whatever. Through all of your fancy algorithms, find people that look like the people who already love our business and coming and eating here. And go ahead and show this ad to them as well. So now you're running both a billboard campaign, like an awareness campaign, as well as a remarketing campaign to the people who have already come engaged with you enough that they've given you their information. So super strong, super smart way to take advantage of really like a specialized, there's a window of time. How do you fill that? How do you fill in these gaps as a restaurant? How do you marry digital strategies with actual foot traffic?
That's just awesome, man. That was, I think, one of the best ways to use Facebook I've heard in weeks. Uh, and you're right, the algorithms, they have all of that data available for you. And particularly with the new business pages that they're rolling out, there's just a lot of potential there. And if people are not, after a year used to walking by and being like, oh, I'm gonna go get a cup of coffee, they get that reminder, whether it's text, email, Facebook ad, it's just going to remind them, hey, this option exists. I can go get that shot of espresso. I can enjoy people watching, and
It's timely, it's valuable. I think it's the sort of thing that especially if it's a local and a regular who's going there anyway, this has now been like a really cool added value for them rather than an interruption.
yeah.
Yeah.
I think we're running close to the end of our time here today. Um, so I wanted to kind of give you a chance to have closing thoughts on how kind of what's in a nutshell what's kind of the takeaway here today, because we've covered a lot of ground about how to uh, you know maintain your Google searches, how to directly reach customers at peak times, what's the takeaway here besides that there's a lot that goes into marketing?
Well, usually I would say that the takeaway is now that you get that there's a lot that you can do, and if you're excited by the potential of what you can do, then you've got a couple of choices. You can either, it can either remain as like good ideas, or you can do something about it. And if you take the latter route, then I think that's the better choice, to do something about it. And if you're going to do something about it, then you have a couple of choices again. You can either try to figure this stuff out on your own, or you can get help, like implementing it right the first time. There could be value to both, right? But if you were basically focused on your business and wanting more customer activity, you're typically going to do better with the latter, like working with someone who's already done this many times, knows the steps, knows the right order to do things in, and the right way to do it. So the way that we do that with businesses is through what we call a playbook, a custom marketing playbook. So we have an initial discussion where we really come to understand you, but even through that part of that process, I'm going to be asking questions that'll help you clarify things for your own business. By asking those questions, you're going to have to come up with answers that are going to help you clarify things. Then based on that information, I'm going to do research. I'm going to put together a full playbook. I'm going to show you competitors. I'm going to show you keywords. I'm going to show you activity. I'm going to give you a full game plan for what you could implement and how you could implement it. Now, from there, that entire process is free. And again, you have a choice at that point. You could either do nothing with that information, you could try to use that internally, but at least now you have a better idea of what to do and what order to do it in. Or of course, you could use a firm like ours, R&B Communications, and work with us, and we can actually execute on that for you. So that's the thing I would most recommend, is if you took time, energy, invested in yourself to actually like consume this content, think about these ideas and topics, don't let that investment go to waste. Like, let it actually turn into action that's going to make a difference for you. And David, I'm not sure if you're able to give a link to it, but I have a page that's set up for that, rb-com.com/playbook, if a business wants to use us for that, rb-com.com/playbook.
That link will be at the bottom of this video on all of our platforms for sure. Now, that's just an awesome community service that you do in addition to helping build your own customer base. And do want to mention something else that you've done for the community, which is talk a little bit about these Spark Young Entrepreneur meetups, because one of the best things you can do to really build your business and build the community is meet other people doing similar things to you. So you can make recommendations, they can recommend people to you. Are those going on virtually right now? What's the story with these meetups?
Yeah, so back March of 2020, as things were like fully closed down and we realized this wasn't going to be just a cute little experiment for a couple of weeks. This was actually kind of how life was going and business was going. I created on Facebook, a Facebook group, the Nevada County Small Business Mastermind Group, and just started inviting businesses. And I said, hey, well, we're going to have this void of in-person networking opportunities. So let's do what we can to have some virtual ones. So we created the Thursday virtual happy hours with the Chamber of Commerce and with the offshoot of the Chamber, the Spark Group. And then, Spark co-hosted that with us. The Chamber helped promote that. We were running them every Thursday for a while, and now I believe they're once a month. And kind of a question around, hey, will we keep it up? People just kind of got zoomed out as the year went forward. And we lived on Zoom, and it's like, oh, one more thing on Zoom. So we had some good gangs there and some definitely great business activity that came out of it. It's still like a good Facebook group to be a part of. But what, yeah, I'd like to see as we transition into this, that these virtual, keep that business networking environment coming out. Definitely another core part of your marketing foundation, right? Is like, you've got your website, you've got your reputation, and then you've got like your actual business community, the people that you talk to on the ground, that you network intentionally with or casually with, the charities that you're a part of, all the rest of that really also make up a core part of your foundation, because it's all of your local relationships and where those word of mouth referrals come from. So yeah, I'd like to see that continue. the chamber obviously is going to start opening up events again. Our chapter of BNI here locally that was in person is meeting virtually every Thursday for this whole time. We'll be opening up again in June for that, for in-person stuff. And then Spark will be having more in-person actual events. So we'll continue to be a part of supporting all of that and kind of like a hub to connect those entities together. Yeah, that'll be great. I think people will be probably hungry, probably a little bit awkward, probably a little bit anxious about connecting in groups again, but we can do it.
That's just awesome. I think that's a great place to end here. We had a wonderful conversation here tonight. I want to thank Jacob Griscom for joining me and the Nevada County Tech Connection. And I think this is going to be a very useful video for some folks out there trying to think about how to reach new customers, how to keep the ones they have, and make sure momentum is sustained. Thanks so much
Yeah,
for joining us, everyone.
Thanks for the invite. Yeah, thanks for the invite. Thanks for a great conversation. And I'll look forward to connecting with more businesses that kind of want to collaborate and go through this thought process.
We'll have all those links of the Facebook groups, the websites, and everything will be down at the bottom. So don't worry about trying to grab anything from the video. We'll give you all the links. And good night, everyone. Thanks again.